Ecology? So what is that? Biology is the study of living things. What is ecology the study of? Ideas? Yeah. You sure? You can just call out words that come to mind if you want. Dead things. That's certainly a part of ecology. Ecosystems, like it. What else? Ecology is cool because most of biology, what you find is that we're zooming way in and trying to figure out how stuff works on the inside, living things, right? Ecology is cool because it's not really about that, although that's part of it. Mostly what ecology is about is how the living things that biology covers, how they interact with both each other and their environment. And that sounds kind of easy and touchy-feely, and that's how some teachers treat it. It is not. I can tell you that the ecologists that I have known and interacted with have been pretty much the smartest scientists I've known, and that's because they have to know everything. It's the study of interactions with each other, but also the environment. So they have to not only know like the biology of how living things work on the inside, but they got to know things about climate and geology, and weather. All these different fields kind of converge in ecology, which makes it hard. In today's activity, I'm going to try and give you that sense of how that interconnectedness makes ecology very complex. But we'll start easy. Don't write that. There we go. That's what I will start with. We'll start with levels of grouping. Since we're talking about interaction, we need some terms for how we group living things. So we'll start with a group of the same kind of critter in the same place. What do we call that? What do we call the group of red ants that live in the courtyard outside my window? That is the what of red ants in that courtyard. Don't ever think it. We use the same term for people. What do we call all the people that live in Springboro? That's Springboro's. Close. That's next level up. No? It's a P word. Good. Population. Yeah. The population that's a group of the same species in the same place. Well, okay. We just said group of the same species. I guess we better move one level up to what is a species? This is an interesting one. Do you know how we define species? Some of you are thinking right now, well, that's how they look. If they look enough alike, they're the same species. That's not our practical definition of species. And then some of you are smart. You're thinking DNA. It's if their DNA is similar enough, and that is a good answer. But it's not a good practical answer because we can't keep measuring DNA, and we haven't even been able to measure DNA for more than about 10 years to that level. So our practical definition of species is kind of funny how simple it is. Let me ask you: are a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua, are they the same species? See some heads shaking, some heads nodding. So we're not sure. How about a horse and a donkey? Same species? Some nodding, some shaking. Geez. Huh. So how do we know? Okay, I'll tell you the answer. The horse and a donkey are not, but a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua are. Obviously, it's not by looks. What is it?
By classification.
It is classification, but how do we do it? How do we decide? That's the question.
Pretty much like a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua are dogs, and then like a Burmese python and a rattlesnake are considered snakes.
But they're not the same species. Burmese python and rattlesnake, totally different species. See? It's confusing.
Is it like who they evolved from?
Ultimately, it should be. But how do you tell? It's actually kind of weird. Here's our definition. A species can interbreed. If they can make babies, they're the same species. Well, okay. One caveat to that. If they can make babies and those babies can make babies, they're the same species. Which is the loophole that horses and donkeys run into. What do you get when a horse and a donkey make babies? A mule. A mule. Very good. Yeah, you have to do it right. It has to be a female horse and a male donkey, I think. Or I could have that backwards. Anyway, if you do it the wrong way, you get a hinny. It's called a hinny, and for some reason people don't like hinnies. I don't know what's wrong with them, but mules are great. Mules are like the good qualities of horses and donkeys combined. Donkeys, if you don't know, are awesome because they have big brains. They're smarter than horses, like quite a bit. People say they're stubborn and that mules are stubborn. They just remember the crap you did to them, and they won't work for you if you're mean to them. There's stories of mules waiting years to get the chance to kick the farmer that mistreated them. Donkeys can also see all four of their feet because of where their eyes are, and that makes them more sure-footed than horses. Horses can only see their front feet. Horses, though, big, strong, fast, and maybe a little more trainable than a donkey. And so a mule is the best of both. It can see all four of its feet, it's smart, but it's bigger and stronger and faster and more trainable than a donkey. But they're different species. Why? How do you get more mules? You got to breed more horses and donkeys because mules are sterile. There's a chromosomal mismatch between horses and donkeys that means that their offspring can't reproduce with each other. And so they're different species, whereas the German Shepherd and the Chihuahua, believe it or not, and don't picture it, but can, in fact, have offspring. Make sense? Fun fact of the day. So widen out the population of ants to the populations of ants and trees and bushes and grass and bacteria and maybe, I don't know what else lives down there, butterflies, all the populations in that courtyard, and that is the community. Good. The community is all the populations. One step out from that, we add in the non-living stuff, not just the living populations in that courtyard, but the rocks, the soil, or the non-living part of the soil, the air, the rainfall, all that, even the walls that hem it in. And that's what? That's the word I think maybe Grant said. What was it? Ecosystem. Ecosystem is when you throw in the non-living stuff. Okay, zoom out a level from that. There are ecosystems that happen in multiple places on the planet. A place that doesn't get very much rainfall at all tends to look fairly similar wherever it occurs. And so we call it the same kind of ecosystem wherever it is, right? The Sahara or the Namib, right? And what are those? Deserts, yeah. What do we call a type of ecosystem like that happens, rainforest, desert, taiga? Good, biome. That's a group of similar ecosystems. Finally, let's zoom out all the way and look at all the places on Earth that life can exist. It goes from about a mile up where there are actually bacteria floating, counts as living things, to a couple 100 feet down below the surface. Again, bacteria, they kind of define the edges of this. And then all the way around the planet. What is that called?
The biosphere.
Very nice. The biosphere. All the parts of the earth. Grab a device. We're going to do some group work. So take a look here. I haven't shared this with you in Classroom yet, but it will be shared. And what you're going to need to do as soon as you get these two files, you're each going to get a copy of this slideshow and this sheet. The first thing your group is going to need to do, once you know who you are, is one of you is going to have to share both files with all the other group members so that you're all working on the same sheet. And you're going to have to give those group members editing privileges when you share it. And I think you've done that before. So here's what it is. Basically, ecology is all about interaction, and interaction can be unbelievably complex. What I've given you are 7 scenarios. For example, the first scenario, the first slide, is early settlers of Australia brought rats with them on their ships. Rats didn't exist in Australia until then. So that slide is going to get, and I have the number 5 in parentheses here, is going to get 5 of these effects. What you have to figure out is what follows that scenario. What happens if you bring rats to a place where rats have never been, right? And so you're going to look through these effects, like, okay, not enough oxygen in water, that doesn't seem right. Large, overpopulated herbivores, rats aren't large. Overpopulated herbivores can spread disease. Let's see. Species that have never been in an area usually don't have any predators. That sounds right, doesn't it? So what you're going to do is you are going to cut. You know cut? I know you know copy and paste. You know cut? Cut is Control X. And what it does is it's just like copy, except it also removes the option. And that's what I recommend you do, because you're not going to be reusing any of these. They can only be used once. Some of them are there multiple times because they do get reused. But you only use each of these once. So you would cut Control X, removing a predator, and then you would paste it on that slide. And that's one of your effects. The number 5 in parentheses means there's going to be 5 effects. And so when you get to 5, you can stop and move on to the next slide. These are all pretty much real world scenarios. So you are absolutely welcome and encouraged to look them up. Google it. See what you can find. See if you can find out what the real effects were. In some cases, you'll just know. But in some cases, hey, what did happen in Australia? Sure, look it up. Okay? That's the idea. And it will carry us through today and Monday.